that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 378th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey, me, and the amazing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
If you
can see the, yeah.
You can see the barrier between Tom and me. We're allowed
big hunk of plexiglass.
Yeah, we're allowed to sit in the studio without masks because we can't cough on each other. And even though we're closer than 6 feet, so this is proper social distancing. Every day I get up and I do my research on the internet. I was going to tell everybody I feel like Sherlock Holmes looking for the good stuff. I'm gonna do it like this. Here is my.
Hey, you're right.
When I was in like second grade,
yeah.
I saw my brother do that. You know, this whoa, and I just thought that was hysterically funny. So I came across this magnifying glass as I was working the other day and thought, I'll bring that in. There'll be kids who will like that. Anyway, every day I go to my blog and I work to produce a post for the blog, which is going to be 10 to 15 news items taken from the internet, and they go to the blog, which is geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. And Tom and I will keep you apprised of the dates on the articles. Although now what I'm doing is I'm loading a file that has, and I'm looking at the file and the pictures are missing. So I may have to reload it to the BCTV website. But and also we have that blog that you and I work at, which is called energyweeknews.wordpress.com.
Yeah.
You can go to any of these.
This is the best of that blog.
Yeah. The geoharvey.com blog you can go to and you can find the information there. We will keep you up to date on what date these articles appeared on that blog, so you can click on the calendar and find them. And I don't remember anything else to say right now, but you always have something
Well,
to say.
this week we're going to do a 2-week show.
Yeah.
This is going to cover 2 weeks,
This is
so
going
it's
to
going to be a little
2-week
different
show.
from the way we've done it.
And one thing that I've done in this show is I've tried to get a photograph for every item I put up.
Which makes sense.
And I'm going to try to do that in the future as well. So we're going to have a bunch of pictures, more pictures than we had in the past.
Hey, what's wrong with pictures?
It's a little bit.
Picture says 1,000 words.
Yes, it's a little bit more work for me, but it's not all that bad. Anyway, we're starting on the 25th of June, which was a Thursday, 2 weeks ago, and from that. Do you have anything left to say before we launch into this?
I read all these things, obviously. You write them, I read them.
I write the synopsis, but you read the full article, which was...
Sometimes.
Yeah,
I always read the whole article.
Yeah.
Some of these are well worth looking at.
Yes.
And I'll try and mention some of the better ones. Some of these this week were very long.
Some of them were very long, and some of them were amazing.
A lot of good information.
A lot of good information. So we're starting out with a slide of the Earth. I'm going to put that up.
Is that the Earth? Is that what that is?
Well, it's either that or one of those big Aggies that I used to have when I was a kid. But I think that's.
I guess we got to get it up there like that.
There you go. And that is this is from PR Watch.
So the very first one here, it says Facebook creates fact-checking exemption for climate deniers.
And we're going to have a second article about the same thing.
I think we are, yes.
Facebook is aiding and abetting the spread of climate disinformation, said environmentalist sociologist Robert Brule. They have become the vehicle for climate misinformation and thus should be held partially responsible for a lack of action on climate change.
Well, what I got out of this was that Brule was reacting to Facebook's recent decision to create a giant loophole in its fact-checking program.
Yeah.
Okay, Facebook has decided to make any climate disinformation ineligible for fact-checking.
Yeah.
They'll just post it. They're going to label it opinion. The organization that requested the change, which is called the CO2 Coalition, has close ties to the fossil fuel industry.
Well,
why am I not surprised?
Yeah, right.
It uses Facebook with its message that climate change fears are overblown and that burning more fossil fuels will help humanity. Burn coal, man, it's good for you.
Well, yeah.
Well, we got another one coming up here, another image here, and
Yep.
it's about investments. Let's see
That
what
is
one
about
looks-
investments.
Well,
And
that's me. I got to get it up there, huh?
you do.
Yeah.
If you're going to put us up, Tom, you got to get back to the machine. This is e-mobility investments by EU, that's European Union, car makers and others in Europe.
Well, I'm going to leave it up. I'm not going to leave it up there much longer, but I'll read what it says while you're looking at it.
Okie doke. This is from Clean Technica.
9 times more invested in EVs and EV batteries in Europe last year than in 2018.
You know, you read that wrong, Tom. It's not 9, it's 19.
Wow, it is. It's
Yeah,
19.
it is.
Things are happening.
Things are happening.
And it's economics, stupid.
Yeah, well, it's partly the COVID-19.
Yeah, that's got something to do
Yeah.
with it.
According to the Transport and Environmental Report, Europe poured 60 billion euros into EV production and EV battery production in 2019. Well, that isn't COVID-19 because nobody knew it was there. This is 19 times as much as it did in 2018. Some of the results are clear. The EV market share has been skyrocketing in Europe.
Well, this is interesting because it says 3.5 times more money was put into EVs and EV batteries by corporations and governments in Europe
Right.
than happened in China.
Yeah, which is
Okay.
kind of amazing because the
It
Chinese
is,
were
because the Chinese are usually on top of things like this.
way out in the lead on that.
Well, 2/3 of the European investments were in Germany, so Germany's leading the race there. And EV market share has been skyrocketing in Europe.
Right.
From the report, it says it expects the trend to continue.
I would think that it probably will be continuing. The thing that I said about COVID-19 is not really relevant to this particular article, but it is relevant to the times because what's been happening in Europe, and I've been seeing this over and over again, is that the automotive industry was hit really hard by the pandemic.
Yes,
But
yes.
the electric vehicle share of it was not hit anywhere near as hard as the rest. And in some
I
cases,
think people are looking at this.
yeah, they're looking
I
at it.
mean, we haven't seen the sea change yet, but it's coming.
Well, the sea change, I think, yeah, that's
It's
what's
coming
happening.
rapidly.
Coming rapidly.
Well, we got another picture here.
Yeah, and this
No,
is,
is your responsibility?
we're
to
now on
report.
Friday,
Friday the
June
26th.
26th, and
Ah,
we have an item from...
And that is the picture. Isn't it?
Yes, it is. We have an item from Renewables Now.
That's
This
a
is-
wind farm in Oklahoma, by the way.
Yes, it is, and that's a USDA picture.
And it says U.S. renewables produce 27% more power than coal. Outpaced nuclear over 4 months.
This is something, you know, Tom, you and I talked about the idea that renewables were going to outpace coal and nuclear this year.
Several times.
Several
Oh, yeah.
times. We never saw COVID-19 coming, though, and at least not until it was coming. And that was what really tipped the scales fast on this.
I think you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're right. We'll
But-
probably touch base on that before this show's over.
27% more than coal is kind of outstanding.
Well, in the U.S., renewable energy sources produce. That's what you're supposed to say.
In the U.S., renewable energy sources produced significantly more electricity than coal during the first 4 months of 2020 and topped even nuclear power as well, according to the Sunday campaign, based on data from the Energy Information Administration.
Well, this is the first time we've been in the studio since what, middle of March, right?
Something
So
like
it's
that,
a
yeah.
different. We're getting used to this again.
Yes, we are.
Well, wind and solar together provided nearly an eighth of the U.S. total electrical production. Wind and solar together, and it's gaining.
And that doesn't include other renewables. And hydro is
combined with hydro, biomass, and geothermal. Okay, renewables provided nearly a quarter of the total electrical output. Well, that's moving bigger and faster.
Bigger and faster. That's what it's doing. Okay, we're up to Saturday, June 27th, and we've got a picture here.
And the picture came up automatically.
Automatically to you, not automatically to me. I had to push a
building
button.
a wind turbine.
Yes, that's right. And this is from Renews.
Arizona utility plots 2.5 gigawatts renewable revolution.
You know, Tom, every time I think about this, it blows me away. Renewable energy, I read these things where it's 2.5 gigawatts, and I think, who does anything that's in 2.5 gigawatt increments? That's
Gigawatts or bigawatts, man.
2.5 gigawatts would be 2.5 big nuclear power plants. And what do?
Yes,
they just say, oh, we're just going to stick it in.
The power plant we had here in town after they refurbished it was, what, 660 or something like that?
I think it was 640, but
something like that.
one of us or the other of us is probably on the money here. At least
it was
close.
a little bit more than a half.
Yeah, and
Half a gigawatt.
let me read the synopsis here. Arizona utility Tucson Electric Power. I always want to say
that's Tucson.
Tucson. That's right. Filed its 2020 integrated resource plan with Arizona Corporation Commission. It includes 2,457 megawatts of new wind and solar capacity by 2035. About 457 of wind and solar is planned to come online in the next 12 months.
It's not a huge amount.
It's not a huge amount.
But it's significant.
It's significant. And, you know, what's happening here is they closed down the Navajo generating station.
We've talked about that one.
Yeah.
That was theirs, huh?
Well, it was produced. No, that was New Mexico.
That was New Mexico. It was a mine and a station.
Yeah.
Up in northern New Mexico. Yeah, the northeast corner. Right?
Yep.
Well, Tucson proposes retiring 2 coal-fired generating units in 2027 and in 2032.
You think they're actually going to last till 2032?
They probably won't. The company is completing 2 large New Mexico wind farms and a solar plus storage project that will more than double the community scale energy resources.
Yeah.
So they're moving. They're moving.
Yep.
We get another picture here.
We do.
Let's see if we can
How
get
about
that?
That's a picture of the Connecticut shore. And this is from
That's what it
Inside Climate News.
It's a long article.
Yeah.
Fading winters, hotter summers make Northeast America's fastest warming region.
You know, this struck me because only about a year or two ago, we had an article that we talked about in which the models showed the Northeast being the slowest part of the country to warm up.
Well, that's not what this article says.
I know it. They've got new information here. Washington Post analysis also found. Did you read the title? You did.
I did, yeah.
Washington Post analysis also found that New York City area, including counties in Long Island, New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, was among about half a dozen hot spots nationally where warming has already exceeded 2 degrees Celsius.
Well, I know when it's a hot day in New York City, it's hot.
It's hot, yeah.
Well, explanations include warm winters that produce less snow and ice and thus reflect less heat back into space,
Yes.
to warming ocean temperatures and changes in both the jet stream and the Gulf Stream. So a lot of things are happening.
A lot of things are happening, but
The
things
warming
are warming
trend
up.
in the Northeast continued this spring, which saw warmer than normal temperatures for all 12 northeastern states. It's warming faster than the rest of the contiguous U.S., particularly the coastal areas.
Right. Okay, we're up to Sunday, June 28th, and we have an item from Clean Technica and a
Another
picture.
here.
That is a Corvette
That's what it
engine.
tells me it is, yes.
You know, that just looks so complicated and difficult to me.
Is GM's internal combustion business worthless? Adam Jonas seems to think so. So you're going to tell us what Adam Jonas has to say.
Well, excuse me, something went down the wrong way. Morgan Stanley auto analyst Adam Jonas says GM's EV business is worth $100 billion. Jonas' price target of $43 a share for GM puts GM's total value at $60 billion. Doesn't that mean that GM's internal combustion engine business is worth less than nothing?
I had a little problem with this. I couldn't make the numbers compute. Something seemed wrong.
Well, what he's saying is, if you had General Motors EV business, it would be worth $100 billion, which I don't believe, by the way.
Okay.
But assuming that he's right, that it's $100 billion, and then
they explain where they got that number from. That was part of my problem.
Yeah. But, all right, so let's just say that it is $100 billion, and let's say that GM's total value is $60 billion. That means that everything else that GM owns has got a value of negative $40 billion.
Yeah, something like that.
But
well,
there it is.
We'll let it stay there. You know.
We'll let it stay there. You know, every once in a while we have articles that we talk about that I don't believe, and this happens to be one of them. But it's kind of fun to think that GM's internal combustion engine business would be worth negative $40 billion. They could spin it off, put it up as an IPO, walk away from it, and be gone. Got anything else on that one?
Not on that one.
All right, we're up to Monday,
another one. We got another
the 29th of June, and we have a picture of what my mother would have called roughnecks.
Well, that's what they call themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're called roughnecks.
Yeah.
Well, they're being a little more polite here. They call them oil and gas.
Well, that's what I put up.
Well, Chesapeake Energy, a fracking pioneer, files for bankruptcy, owing $9 billion. How did that happen?
Yeah, how did it happen? This is from The Guardian. Chesapeake Energy, a leader in the fracking boom, has filed for bankruptcy protection. The company said its debts of $9 billion were unmanageable, and it entered a plan with its lenders to cut $7 billion out of them. It will continue operating as usual during the bankruptcy process. This means that they've gone to their debtors, and they've gone to the courts, and they've said, we owe these people $9 billion, but they're agreeing to take $2 billion instead.
Uh-huh.
We warned them.
Right here we did.
Right here. We
Well,
said,
a quick takeaway here. The shale gas drilling innovator, that's Chesapeake Energy, fracking, helped turn the U.S. into a global energy powerhouse, but ran up huge debts in the process, which I think we've mentioned here.
I guess we have.
Other wildcatters followed. These companies are now under pressure to service those debts, and more than 200 of them have filed for bankruptcy.
Well, what do you know?
How did that happen?
How did it happen?
Wow.
Wow is right. More on that?
No, that's all I got.
Okay, we've got an item now from El Pais in English, and I've got to get back to where
this picture.
Yeah, you're going to have to wait on the picture until I've got it up. Oh, come on. Oh, well, there we go. There.
Yeah, now we got the picture.
Puente Nuevo power plant in Cordoba.
Which is in Spain.
Yeah.
And it's obvious, it will be obvious by the next sentence, which says, Spain to close half its coal-fired power stations. Wow.
This is from El Pais in English. 7 out of the 15 coal-fired power stations still operating in Spain will cease operations on June 30th, which now...
That's over already.
It's over. They have closed down 7 of their power plants. After the owners, the electric companies, decided that it does not make financial sense to adapt them to European regulations, and 4 more are getting ready to shut down soon.
Well, Spain is on track to becoming one of the world's fastest decarbonizing nations.
Right.
All of its remaining coal-fired power plants will start shutting down after the closure of the coal mines, which could not survive without the aid that the European Union has banned.
Now, what they have to do
between a rock and a hard place there.
in order to keep those coal burning power plants open, they have to get them to meet European standards for emissions, but they also have to import all the coal to run them. Because
import the coal what?
To run them.
Okay,
because
they can't generate their own.
Their coal mines are all shut down.
Yeah, right.
So, you look at this, and yeah, it's the rock and the hard place.
I got a quick takeaway here. Spain is on track to becoming one of the world's fastest decarbonizing nations. Didn't I read this?
I think you did.
I think I did. Well, I don't think I read the last sentence.
But read the last
These
sentence.
7 plants represent half the installed coal power generation capacity in Spain.
Yeah. That's what's happening in Spain. That was CNN, by the way. And we've got an item now from Renew Economy.
We've got a picture coming up.
We've got a picture of a nodding donkey. I
sort of
bet
looks
nobody
like a donkey,
who watches this show has ever seen a picture of a nodding donkey before.
It sort of looks like a donkey, doesn't it?
Well, when it's going up and down, it looks like a nodding donkey.
Well, BP is getting out of petrochemicals with a $5 billion sale.
Yeah.
There's a good video in this show. It's about 1.5 minutes. It's worth looking at.
Right. This is from CNN. BP, which stands for British Petroleum, or at least did at one time.
Yeah.
Has agreed to sell its petrochemicals business to Ineos for $5 billion. The UK oil company is selling its assets worth $15 billion as it reels from oil price crash and pivots toward renewable energy. It has already sold its businesses in Alaska and offloaded legacy gas assets elsewhere in the United States. This is an interesting thing, though, because basically what's happening is they are shutting down.
They're getting rid of their non-energy.
Well, they're getting rid of their petrochemicals, which means these are mostly plants that make plastic.
Absolutely, soft drink bottles.
And so they're looking at this and they're saying something that they're not really telling us, but it looks to me like they're saying, in order to keep those plastic plants open, we're going to have to be generating oil. And we're going to go out of the oil business.
That's interesting.
You see, that's the sense that I've got.
Well, BP has interests in plants in Asia, Europe, and the United States.
Yes. Producing
10 million tons of petrochemicals for use in, are you ready? Soft drink bottles,
plastic,
packaging, and pharmaceuticals. They're getting rid of all of that stuff.
They're getting rid of all of it, but it's all manufacturing plastics.
Absolutely.
And you see, again, I think these people have looked at what's wrong with climate change, what's wrong with pollution, all of this stuff, and they're seeing, hey, the whole plastics industry is under attack right now.
Well, maybe it should be.
Maybe it should be. Yeah. Okay, move on.
Yeah, we've got another picture coming up here.
We've got a
picture came up automatically. Isn't that amazing?
I push the button and Tom says, how did that happen? Okay, this is from Renew Economy.
I found this to be a broken link, so if you're trying to look this one up, you may have to Google the headline.
Oh, dear. Okay, well, you read the title and I'll read the...
Well, I got all the information. I found it, but
okay.
The link just didn't work. I had to go through the back door.
You had to go through the back door, yeah.
Well, global transition from coal to clean energy has reached a financial tipping point.
Now, you were talking about a tipping point earlier in the show.
I was.
And this is where we're seeing this. And we've been watching this. 2 years ago, we were saying this is going to happen soon, guys. And now we're seeing that the people...
It's all of a sudden speeding up.
Oh, it is speeding up. A report from the Sierra Club, the Carbon Tracker Initiative, and the Rocky Mountain Institute concluded that replacing the entire global fleet of coal plants with clean energy plus battery storage could be done at a net annual savings as early as 2022.
Say that again. That's important.
The report says that replacing the entire global fleet of coal plants with clean energy plus battery storage could be done at a net annual savings.
So they're going to do it, they're going to save money doing it.
Yeah, as early as 2022. Now, that that means, and the figures that I'm seeing out there as I do this research, with my magnifying glass, say that about 3/4 of those plants are already at that position. 2022 means all of them.
I'm just about to say something about that. Coal power is quickly facing economic obsolescence.
Boy, is it ever.
Which we've talked about. We didn't use those words, but
Yeah.
we talked about exactly that.
Yep.
It is already cheaper to build new renewable energy capacity, including battery storage, than to continue operating 40% of the world's existing coal capacity, which will increase to 60% in 2022, 75% in 2025. By 25, the annual savings of such a transition could reach $141 billion, which is significant.
That's just 5 years
Not
away.
considering the secondary costs of coal, which include health, climate, and environmental impacts, which we've talked about,
Right.
or accounting for the social and environmental benefits of reducing pollutants in the atmosphere.
Right.
This is a win-win situation.
This is.
really.
The only people who are going to suffer are the people who mine the coal.
Unfortunately for
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Well, every time I think about that, I think about a guy in, I think it's West Virginia. Forgotten.
Well, there's
But
plenty
there
of
was
coal
a-
mining in West Virginia.
A fella down there in mining area who was running for office,
Yeah.
and I got into an email exchange.
I think I
with
know
him.
who you mean.
Yeah,
I think I've read some of his
can't
writings. I
remember
haven't
his name.
communicated with him.
But very smart guy, and he, asked me, "What are these miners going to do?" And I said, "Look at that video that you can find on YouTube of Jessica Kilroy repairing the wind turbines." The people who repair wind turbines fly all over the country to get up onto those wind
And
turbines.
they fly around under the wind turbines.
Well, I'll tell you, I've always
That's
been.
a very interesting video.
It is. I've always been scared enough of heights that stepping on a chair bothered me. Now, I did get over it a bit by doing some mountain climbing in the Alps, looking down and seeing this little bitty cow. But the thing is, given the choice, I think I'd much rather climb the wind turbine and go out on the blade and stuff like that, the way Jessica Kilroy was.
Well, she's tethered, though.
Well, you get tethered. You don't go up there without tethers. And I
She
think
must
rather do
enjoy
that
swinging in the breeze.
than going down. Well, I've seen pictures of her.
Yeah, she was doing exactly that.
Well, I've seen pictures of her on cliff faces.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and here she is.
She likes the heights, huh?
Well, yeah. There was a thing that looked like it was a platform. It was about 3 feet wide and maybe 8 feet long. It looked like a place where a person could put a sleeping bag, and it was on a vertical cliff. This was
And that's
this
where
was
she's
sheer
sleeping.
cliff. And here she is with a guy sitting on this thing. The guy's at one end, she's at the other end, and she's playing her guitar.
So what do you want, a harmonica?
She carried a guitar up a cliff face,
Yeah,
so she
crazy.
could play the guitar in a cliff face. And how the picture was taken, I don't know. It might have been taken with a drone or something. Anyway, this is what's happening. And I was telling him, renewable energy, a lot of the renewable energy jobs are jobs that require people to travel around. And in a case like that, a guy who works in a coal mine could,
They make good money.
yeah, they make good money. I mean, at the time that I was talking about Jessica Kilroy,
Yeah.
people who were fresh into wind technician jobs in Massachusetts were making close to $50,000 a year.
Pretty good to start.
Well, it's a good starting wage. Yeah, yeah, that's right. So there you go.
Well,
Of course, with the amount of money that the federal government is now throwing at the COVID-19 process, we might get into an inflation that will make $50,000 a year not as attractive as it is today, but you never can tell.
Well, we got another picture coming up.
We always have pictures coming up.
Yeah, good picture. Let's see now.
Is
How
that
do I
the
get it up?
picture?
If I do that, I do this, the picture will come up.
Is that the right picture?
Well, it's a RAV4 Prime.
That's what it
we're going to
says.
be talking about.
Okay, this is from Clean Technica.
Toyota suspends production of the RAV4 Prime after, you ready? 3 weeks. Somebody was asleep at the wheel.
Somebody was. You know, I looked at the title of this and I thought, what went wrong? And you know, I was thinking, did they discover that the car can't be steered, or that the batteries explode?
Well, the article is trying to guess around that, trying to figure out what happened.
Well, what happened? Let me read the synopsis. Just 3 weeks after the start of production of the RAV4, Toyota announced that it won't build anymore for a while. It seems orders for the car far exceeded Toyota's plan to make 4,000 of them a year. Reports are that Toyota failed to line up enough batteries for more than that number.
Well, that's almost inconceivable. It's almost as inconceivable as introducing a new gasoline-powered model and forgetting to order pistons.
They didn't expect the demand for this car.
They never did. See, and this is my words, but it seems like a management screw-up.
It was a management screw-up.
They need to realize the EV revolution.
Yeah. My bet is that somebody said, well, we've got to be producing some good EVs, and somebody else in management said, they'll never sell.
Yep.
And so they said, well, how many of them are we going to make?
We'll make 4,000.
Yeah, let's make 4,000. We don't need more than that. And then they get 4,000 batteries lined up, and when they discover they need more,
they can't get them.
They can't get them because everybody else is putting car batteries into their own cars.
Yeah.
So there you go. This next one, are we done with that one?
Yeah, we're done. And the picture came up already, so that's good.
This is from PV Magazine.
The picture's called An Unnecessary Bridge.
Well, that's the title I gave it. Actually,
well,
I was thinking
to the article.
A thing I was thinking of doing was making a kind of a paraphrase of The Bridge Too Far and calling this a bridge too many. But unnecessary.
You know, I just saw that movie, A Bridge Too Far.
Did you?
Yeah, I saw it on Netflix.
Did you?
Yep.
Wow. That was...
Good movie.
Yeah, but it was a stunning military problem.
Oh, yeah.
That was really hard.
Oh, big time, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the movie it was about D-Day? It had John Wayne in it.
I must have seen it.
In that movie,
yeah,
there is a picture of a parachutist who gets stuck on a church steeple.
I have seen that movie.
Okay.
Yep.
And when that movie first came out, I was in school at a private school, boarding school, and my roommate said to me, "That guy up on that steeple, that was my uncle."
Oh, how about that?
That was a real problem. But here we've got
we've got an unnecessary bridge.
We got an unnecessary bridge. PV Magazine International.
More utilities, bypassing natural gas bridge and going straight to renewables. What do they mean by natural gas bridge? What are you going to tell us?
I think so. Utilities moving away from coal are starting to view the natural gas bridge, which, you know, they were thinking
between energy sources.
Right. We're gonna start coal. We're gonna replace the coal with natural gas, and then we're gonna go to renewables, which is something that you would only do because you want to get rid of the really horrible pollution problems from coal, which in some respects are a lot worse than those from natural gas. Although I will say in some respects they're not a lot worse. They're starting to view the natural gas bridge to renewable energy as an unnecessary step.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. Utilities in Arizona, Colorado, and Florida have announced plans to close coal plants without adding any gas-fired generation. So they're saying we're going to shut these coal-burning power plants down, but we're not going to put in natural gas, and we're not going to convert them.
They're going directly to renewables.
They're going straight to renewables.
It's the economics, stupid.
Yeah, it's the economics. We're at a point where if you've got solar power, wind power, hydropower, batteries that you can put in or have in,
yeah,
it's going to be cheaper to use those than coal or natural gas.
Well, we're entering on really a whole new model of how we produce and generate
It's,
electricity.
it's called a new paradigm.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Well, let me read some of the notes I've got.
Okay.
Renewable energy economics have been challenging the competitiveness of coal. How did that happen? Utilities find that the switch from coal to renewables can be done cost effectively and reliably without construction of new gas-fired generation as an interim step.
You know, I've been thinking about this, Tom, and it's really fun. You've got solar power, which runs during the day. You've got wind power, which is stronger at night than it is during the day very often, and it's stronger in the winter than it is in the summer very often. And then you've got batteries of all different kinds, and now they're developing hydrogen storage and all kinds of storage. And you've got hydro. And if you put all of that together, not only is it cheaper,
they kind of match.
They do, and it's more reliable than coal or natural gas or even nuclear. And because the coal plants and the nuclear plants and the big natural gas plants are baseload power, which means that they run flat out 100% of the time, they're not flexible.
Well, this whole model is changing. Changing rapidly.
The whole model is changing.
Yep.
And the people who are standing in the way of this, the people who are saying it won't work, a lot of them in the legislatures.
They're the big guys.
People in legislatures who have their training in law.
Okay.
And they don't know anything about engineering except what they're told by the people who paid for their campaigns.
But I was just going to say, but they know how to count money, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They don't have the imagination to figure out how this can be done. But, you know, as a computer engineer, there was a time, Tom, when I sat down with an IBM PC, the original IBM PC.
Yeah, yeah.
And I looked at this and I thought, well, okay, let's just say that it had a megabyte instead of the 640 kilobytes that it actually had. Let's just say it's a megabyte. You know, we have a personal computer with a megabyte. Each byte is 8 bits plus 1 bit that is used as a checksum. And so it's 9 bits. And each bit had 7, I think it was 7, it might not have been, transceivers. What am I talking about? Transistors. that switch on and off.
Okay.
And that means that you've got 7 times 9 times a million.
Yeah.
So you got 63 million of these
transistors.
Things. And every one of them, because they don't hold their information very long, every one of them has to be read and written back. And they have to do this 200 times every second. So you're reading and writing billions of these things every second, and every single one of them has to be right or the computer crashes. So why is it so hard for a person to take it, you know, just say, yeah, well, computers work. But it's so hard to say, well, renewables will work. If they did the math, if they did the research, they would know. It makes sense. They will work.
Oh, absolutely. And more and more people are going to be doing this kind of thing individually and without government subsidies.
Oh, yeah.
They're
absolutely.
just going to do it because it's cheaper.
You know, Tom, this picture of the bridge reminds me also of something my brother told me.
Put the picture in the
I have brothers who've been all over the world. You know, one of my brothers has lived in the Sudan and Nepal. And, you know, and he told me, I don't think he ever actually lived in Afghanistan, but he told me that in Afghanistan they have broad plains, and the plains have meandering rivers.
Oh, yeah?
And he said during the 1930s, the Nazi government said, these people are Aryans. We're going to help them out. We'll build them bridges. So they built all these bridges over the rivers in these plains. Well, the meandering rivers meander. And every time there's
pretty soon the bridges are in the middle of a field.
The bridges were in the middle of, so Afghanistan had bridges in the middle of fields and rivers that didn't have bridges. Anyway, that's what that reminded me of. But, you know, there's the bridge to the future.
Well, this particular article's got some good examples of
Yeah.
what the utilities are doing by bypassing a natural gas bridge. They go by, they talk about half a dozen utilities.
And every one of them saves money.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
why they're doing it.
Absolutely, that's why they're doing it.
Okay.
Well, let's come a little bit closer back to home here.
Yeah, we have
If I
a
get the
picture of a
picture up.
bug. Okay, it's not a
That
bug.
looks like, well, sort of, you could call that a bug, I
It's a
think. It's
caterpillar.
really a millipede, isn't it?
No, it's a caterpillar.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a caterpillar.
okay, now how do I...
And believe it or not, when I did a Google search on that picture,
Yeah,
Google says caterpillar. Google found that as a caterpillar.
oh, okay.
You know, I
Well,
was
that is a
surprised.
picture of agrovoltaics in Vermont, which we have talked about
a
here.
bunch of times.
We talked about a school just to the south of here in Massachusetts,
Yeah,
where they're doing exactly this.
yeah, yeah. Okay, this is from Clean Technica.
There's a plot brewing to blanket U.S. solar panels and pollinator-friendly plants.
A change is underway. Solar arrays that once sat on barren ground are now festooned with plants that attract bees, birds, and butterflies. Even the DOE is getting, that is the U.S. Department of Energy, is getting into the act. Here is a look at 4 solar power plants built to benefit our pollinators, one of which is in Vermont, which is why the...
Well, yeah, this article was written with the assistance of a guy who lives right here in Brattleboro. And he works for Green Lantern Solar.
Yes. Who was
Yeah.
that?
Huh? I can't think of his name.
Was it Ralph Mima?
Yeah, Ralph.
Okay.
Ralph, yeah.
Yeah.
Green Lantern Solar, headquartered in Waterbury, has partnered with Be the Change, and that's BEE, to build 2 pollinator-friendly solar arrays in New Haven. That's New Haven, Vermont.
New Haven, Vermont. New Haven, Connecticut doesn't
That's
count.
that's another world.
Okay, it does.
Last month, the Giant Company, that Giant is the name of the company, it's a grocery chain,
Yes.
okay, completed a 7-acre field of solar panels at its corporate headquarters in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. It will be, BEE, populated with pollinator-friendly plants. So these guys are getting on the ball, and they're doing it on their own. I hardly think they're making a lot of money selling honey.
No, but
Somebody is.
you know, agrivoltaics, I think, is going to become more and more and more important. As
Well,
we
it's
move
dual
along.
uses of real estate.
Sure is.
It makes more sense for some people. It's dual income,
Yep.
so it's economics are going to dictate. It's going to
And
happen.
we've seen that thing that the Fraunhofer Institute did, and I forget who was it did exactly the same thing in Arizona. I forget who did that. But the Fraunhofer Institute planted potatoes under solar panels and found that they increased the crop.
I've read about that. Some crops will actually grow better under shade.
Sheep will grow.
Sheep do okay. You're not going to grow corn under them, though.
You're not going to grow corn, but there's a lot
Tomatoes
of crops.
work.
Huh?
Tomatoes work.
There
Tomatoes, potatoes, they work.
Yeah, there are a number of crops. You know, the thing that comes to mind is pawpaws. And, you
I don't know
know,
anything about those guys.
you walk down Elliott Street,
Yeah, you got some.
there are pawpaws growing out in front of one of the houses there. And it's a nice
It's
big...
natural.
I don't know, it must have been planted.
Uh-huh.
But we're finding pawpaws that have been, that are volunteers now.
So this is a Georgia plant growing
Well,
in
the
Vermont.
closest it grows to Vermont naturally is Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And a little bit of it in Pennsylvania. But it's starting to grow. People are planting it. The reason I bring it up is because pawpaws, when they first sprout, that the little sprout will die if it sees the sun.
Is that so?
It needs to grow in shade
Oh,
until
good.
it's at least 18 inches tall.
Ah,
So
that's
there are a
really-
lot of things that need shade.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that we might think about is, you know, the whole traditional agriculture thing is something that we can think about under solar panels.
Believe me, people are thinking about it.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Absolutely. Well, we got a
Okay.
nice picture of a boat here.
A boat? Is it that boat?
Looks like it.
Okay.
There's the picture.
This is from Clean Technica.
That's a ferry on a
no.
Puget Sound.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it is from Clean Technica.
And if you want to know where the Puget Sound is, on the map of the United States, in the northwest corner, there's like a hole. That's the Puget Sound.
Yes, it's where Vancouver is.
Vancouver, well, it's in Canada, but yes, it's
Vancouver's
exactly right there.
Big island.
And Seattle.
Seattle is
Seattle's
there.
up there too.
Okay.
Well, the Vigor shipyards choose ABB, battery electric power, for new ferries in Washington State.
Washington State operates one of the largest ferry fleets in the world, which is not a surprise when you consider that Seattle is right there
Well, it's all
on
that
Puget
water.
Sound.
I mean, this Puget Sound is a lot of water.
There's a lot of water.
And islands.
Huh?
And
a lot
islands.
of islands, yeah. It burns about 20 million gallons of diesel fuel a year. That's a fair amount of diesel fuel, making it a major polluter. 3 of its biggest ferry boats, each burning about 5 million gallons, are being converted by Vigor shipyards, or Vigor, I don't know how to pronounce it, to run on electricity. And that picture is a picture of one of them, which you can see. You know,
It's a pretty big ship.
yeah, it's a big ship, and it's got smokestacks in the middle. It's got 2 bridges, one on either end.
Well, yeah, it goes back and forth. It's
Goes
why
back
they call
and
it a
forth.
ferry.
Yes. Well, we
It's a
had a
little
picture
boat.
of a ferry on last week that had a bridge on one end,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
I was looking at that and I thought, what? Did they back this thing in?
I think that bridge was elevated, though.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, any new ferries will be battery electric vessels. By 2040, they expect to replace all 20 of its current ships with vessels that operate primarily on electricity. They will have diesel backup.
Yes.
Okay. High power chargers will be installed at the ferry terminals where the electric ships will dock. So it makes sense while they're waiting for a refill.
It makes
they're
perfect
loading
sense.
up again.
Yeah.
Some of these applications will seem very natural after a while.
I think in some the ferry boats seems very natural to me already. The idea
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
airplanes, Harbor Air, which is in that same area,
It doesn't seem natural, but
does
it's
not
working.
seem natural, but they're
It seems
they're
to be
doing
working.
it. Okay,
Well, we got another picture coming up.
we
here,
do
if can
indeed,
find it.
and this is a
And there it is.
bucket wheel digging for coal, and
There's a pretty big size coal plant in the background.
there is that bucket wheel is on a machine that is absolutely gigantic. That's standing in a big pit in the ground.
We can't see
We
the
can't
size
see
of
it.
the
All we
machine.
see really is the wheel. But
Germany is the first major economy to phase out coal and nuclear.
it's doing both simultaneously. This is from Sumter Item, and you know this when I come across these kind of small publications that are not devoted to either energy or climate change or something like that, like Clean Technica.
Yeah,
and
like
We
Sumter
News.
Item.
Sumter Item is
Never heard of it before.
a lot of them I'd never heard of before. I have to check these to make sure that the links are going to work,
Yeah.
and that may mean that I have to use a separate computer just for doing that job.
Okay.
And even so, it doesn't always
Doesn't always do it.
clear it. German lawmakers have finalized the country's long-awaited phase-out of coal as an energy source, backing a plan that environmental groups says isn't ambitious enough, and free marketers criticize as a waste of taxpayer money. The last coal-burning power plant will close by 2038, and I will bet you that it closes a whole lot
Sooner than that.
sooner than that. Yeah.
Well, Germany will also phase out nuclear power by the end of 2022. Which
Yes.
is coming up pretty soon.
It's already closed down most
The
of it.
plan is part of Germany's energy transition. This is a German word for that.
Energiewende.
Okay, good. An effort to wean Europe's biggest economy off planet-warming fossil fuels and generate all of the country's energy needs from renewable sources.
There you go.
Efforts are underway. We've talked about this, to turn vast lignite mines into nature reserves and lakeside resorts.
That, by the way, was from Saturday, the 4th of July, and I don't think I've been keeping up with the dates as well as I should have. So,
Well, it is Saturday, July 4th, and
Yeah.
we're coming up now.
and now it's going to be
Figure it
Sunday,
out on
July
Sunday,
5th.
July 5th.
And we've got
We've got a
this is
picture
a
here.
nice picture. And
This
an
is a
item,
nice picture.
an item from Gizmodo. And I don't think that picture is actually in the Gizmodo article, but the picture in the article was also Noctilucent clouds. And I thought, that's so kind of fitting for this.
Well, I never heard the word before, so I had to look it up.
Yeah.
Filmy, cloud-like phenomena in the upper atmosphere of the Earth. They consist of ice crystals and are only visible during twilight.
Yeah.
Cool. They look pretty.
Don't they? Okay, what do you got for a title?
U.S. opposition's big climate plan includes studying the risky idea of blocking out the sun.
Yeah. And
That's a little crazy.
well, yeah, this is what they're referring to. Well, let me read the synopsis.
Talk about it. Yep.
Democrats on the U.S. House Select Committee for Climate Crisis put out their big old climate plan.
It's the emphasis on old.
Yeah. One thing in the plan includes is geoengineering. Controversially, that could mean tiny particles to reflect sunlight back into space. This is from Gizmodo UK. And the thing that they say is we could just dump sulfur trioxide into the atmosphere, because that's what comes out of volcanoes when they erupt big time, and that cools.
Well, that
down.
justifies it, doesn't it?
Whoa, sulfur trioxide. What does that mean? Well, sulfur trioxide is extremely hygroscopic. And when it gets a hold of water, and guess what, gang? There's water in
Water
the
up
atmosphere.
there.
It
So when you
gives
get
off
rain-
a lot of heat, but it also turns into sulfuric acid.
Oh, I don't like that.
It's not good for your car's
I was
paint.
just going to think about that. Yeah.
But there are a lot of other things that could go up there.
I got a couple of quick notes from the article.
Good.
An idea that was once taboo is becoming mainstream as the world continues on the course of polluting the atmosphere. Okay?
You're just adding
The
a little
plan
extra
is a
pollution.
first step to start to gauge the consequences and how a geoengineering program could work, even if it's knowledge we hopefully never have to use.
Well, I would hope that we would not have to do
I
this.
hope so, too.
But it's getting to one thing we should explain, and we should be very clear about this, is that geoengineering does not. If you are doing geoengineering, it does not mean that you're putting particles into the atmosphere. You might be putting.
It works the other way around.
You might
Putting
be-
particles into the atmosphere is geoengineering.
Well, not. Yes, that's right. Putting particles into the air is a type of
a type of geoengineering.
But if you plant forests in order to change the climate, that's geoengineering
Yeah, it
too. And there's another thing too, which is I just mentioned sulfur trioxide,
Yeah,
which produces acid rain.
not good.
One of the things that I've thought of is if you put molecular sized titanium dioxide into the atmosphere 40,000 feet up, it would hang around for ages because of Brownian motion. It just won't settle very easily. And titanium dioxide is interesting stuff. One thing about it is it reflects light
It's
really,
white.
really well.
It's white.
It's not just white.
They use, but it's used as a white dye or a white.
It's used to
component of
brighten
white
things
paint and
up.
stuff.
One thing that it is used to brighten up
Yeah.
is the sugar that they dust donuts with.
Oh, wait. Thank you for telling me that.
It's food grade material,
Okay.
and you can put it in the atmosphere. I think it's not just sulfur trioxide that they're talking about. And once they stop talking about sulfur trioxide and start talking about something else, it might be a little bit better. I don't think the idea of geoengineering by putting particles into the atmosphere is a good one.
I don't think so either.
But geoengineering might be necessary.
Well, let me just comment on what you just said.
Yeah.
Using particles to reflect sun back into space could indeed cool the Earth. But it could shift weather patterns and lock us into continuing to block the sun for decades. There's a downside to this. You got to be careful what you're
You
doing.
got to be careful what you're doing. Yeah.
There is or used to be a big titanium mine over New York State, not too far from here.
We've got a lot of titanium in use. I just got these glasses.
There's titanium in them?
No, the frame of this is is actually, this frame I think is titanium. I had a choice of titanium.
Oh, okay.
And titanium has some really wonderful abilities to take pressure, to be, it's got a lot of, I'm missing a word that should be so obvious. It's got good characteristics for making certain kinds of things. It doesn't rot or rust easily. It's interesting stuff, and we're finding it's being used in more and more products. They make guns now out of titanium.
Do they really?
Yeah.
They're
And the
light or
stuff is
something?
really, really light.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we got a picture here.
We do indeed. A picture of the Thames Barrier, and this
You
is
mean
Monday,
it's not
July
Thames?
6th. Thames. It's Thames, if you wish. I think it's Thames in Connecticut and Thames in London. It's weird how the British pronounce these words wrong.
How humans are altering the tides of the oceans. This is significant.
Mind-boggling is what I would call it. Over the course of decades, this is from the BBC, by the way. Over the course of decades, engineers have dredged parts of the Ems River on the Dutch-German border so ships could navigate it from a shipyard upriver. Now, the tidal range has quintupled from what it was in 1900. Changing tidal patterns adds complexity to problems of rising sea levels.
This is a long article with some good pictures in it.
Yes.
And I had never heard of the Ems River, but the pictures of it show there's some pretty big ships going up and down.
Right.
Cruise ships going
Right.
up and down. And I guess they could take it right into the interior of Germany.
Well, I think the Ems River is actually one of the branches of the Rhine. I might be wrong about that.
Well, it's over that way somewhere.
It's somewhere in, yeah. I mean, the Ems River and the Rhine are both in Europe. They must be the same thing, right?
Yeah, right. But like I said, I never heard of the Ems River, and it seems like it's a significant river.
But the problem that they've got, and the reason why we're looking at this Thames Barrier, is if you consider the Netherlands, like some huge percentage, and I don't remember what it is, but it's like 40% of it or something is below sea level already. And as the sea level rises, that's some of the priciest real estate in the world. And as the sea level rises, it's going to be...
It isn't real estate anymore.
Yeah.
Well, this Ems River is almost on the border between Holland and Germany.
Yeah.
It's like about 5 miles inside the border.
Yeah.
I guess it really set the border, but the Germans got greedy.
Ah.
Well, it's a good article. It's a long article. There's good pictures in it. You'll enjoy them. And it says that tides can change dramatically in places where people have changed the shape of the underwater landscape.
Yes.
Okay, so they've been dredging in the tidal, what do they call it? The tidal barrier.
range.
Huh?
Tidal range.
Tidal range has really changed.
What they're saying is, if the tidal range was the difference between, the tidal range is the difference between low tide and high tide. If that tidal range was, say, 3 feet, which is not very much, 100 years ago, or 120 years ago, it would be 15 feet today.
And it's a lot more than that.
That's a big change.
Yeah.
That really is a big change. That's a change that would put fishermen into a position where, it used to be that you could go down and just row your boat out, but you can't anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, let's move along here. We got another picture coming up.
This is a satellite picture of the
Wudong
Wudong Dam.
Is that how you say it?
I don't know.
It's a big dam.
And I did pronounce it wrong for sure, because the Chinese have got their...
China's mega dams are giving way to cheaper renewable energy.
China Three Gorges Corp turned on the first set of generators at the massive Wudong hydropower plant. And the thing about Chinese is they have that tonality thing. And you have to have the right tonality, or the word is going to be wrong.
The word has changed, right? Yeah.
And of course, I have no idea how that's supposed to be pronounced. And Baihetan, the last of the massive power projects, is scheduled to go into operation next year. But with low-cost renewable energy, there's no more dams in the pipeline.
Well, that's what the article says. These sites are the final 2 mega dams in the Chinese construction boom.
Mm-hmm.
By late 2022, China will have completed 5 of the world's 10 largest hydropower plants.
Yeah.
China is downshifting towards smaller projects and pump storage, as well as expanding overseas with nearly $44 billion worth of hydro projects globally. So they're exporting their technology.
Right.
A similar story, and this is local, happened in the U.S., where massive government dam projects helped pull the country out of the Great Depression.
Why doesn't Donald Trump do that? Build massive dam projects?
By the end of World War II, hydroelectricity supplied more than a third of the nation's needs. That's down to 7% now.
Yeah, not because the dams are closing down, but because the demand for electricity has grown. Yeah.
Well, we got another picture coming up, rather controversial here.
Yes, we do. And
That's
the next two articles will use the same.
Yeah, the next two of them are related, aren't
picture.
they? Well, this is a long article, and that picture is the Dakota Access Pipeline. And what the article is about is what's happening to it.
Yes.
Judge orders temporary shutdown of controversial Dakota Access Pipeline.
The Dakota Access Pipeline must shut down by August 5th as an in-depth environmental review is carried out for the controversial project. A district court ruled on Monday. The pipeline will remain closed during the review, which lasted about 13 months. And this is from
Well, they
CNN.
built it without doing this review of
The Army Corps of
environmental.
Engineers was told not to review it, basically.
Well,
They
now
were-
they're saying you got to shut it down and you got to do a review.
the administration thought that it had control of the situation and it knew what the courts were going to expect. And you know, when I read this article, Tom,
Yeah,
it was before the article that follows it.
which we're going to talk about.
We
in a
will
second,
talk
yeah.
about that.
Because they're related. They're totally related.
And I looked at that and I thought, yeah, the Trump administration is going to take this thing to the Supreme Court. And what is the Supreme Court going to do? We can't count on the Dakota Access Pipeline shutting down because the Supreme Court might pick it up and say, you don't have to do that review. However, we have the next article.
Well, the Supreme Court. Well, there's a quick takeaway
Go
from,
ahead with
from
that.
the first article,
Yeah.
and then we'll go to the next one.
Yeah.
Stretching more than 1,000 miles, this Keystone XL pipeline carries crude from the Bakken shale field of North Dakota to a hub in Illinois, where it's transported to refineries in the Gulf Coast. Okay, and now what they've been trying to do is shortcut that.
Yeah.
Instead of going, heck,
You got to put yourself up.
Got to put myself up. Instead of going like this, they're going like that.
Yeah.
Can you see what I'm doing?
The old
They're
pipeline
just cutting the corners.
The old pipeline is the two legs of a triangle, and what they want to do is run the
Yeah,
hypotenuse.
absolutely. That puts it into mathematical terms.
Yeah, and
Well, let's pass on to the next one
Okay.
because it's
good time.
very, very closely related.
And this is also from CNN.
This is because the first
Supreme
one was the Dakota. Well, the picture is the Dakota Access Pipeline.
That's right.
This one is the Keystone XL Pipeline.
Right. And
They're both of them in there in the same place, moving oil from the same place to the same place, but slightly different ways.
Almost the
Almost.
same place. Yeah.
Well,
Dakota Access is going from Dakota to Illinois. Keystone XL is going from Canada to Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yep. Just the tip of Nebraska, though.
Yeah.
Well, Supreme Court deals a major blow to the Keystone XL project.
On Monday, and the reason, usually I don't put on Monday part
This was
of the
last
thing
Monday.
in, but in this
Just 2
particular
days
case,
ago.
both of these articles appeared at CNN on the same day.
Yes.
The Supreme Court cleared the way for several pipeline projects to proceed under a fast-track permitting process that allow projects to go ahead while the environmental reviews are done. But it excluded the Keystone XL expansion from the ruling, forcing major delays. Why?
Well, the exclusion requires the Keystone XL to abide by the environmental review process.
Exactly. The reason why they sped up those other ones is because they said it's okay for you to develop these while the review is happening. But of course, if you're going to do that, you have to understand that if you're not meeting the needs of the process, you may not be able ever to open that pipeline.
So this is the chickens coming home to roost.
Exactly. And what's happened here is the Keystone XL was built without the review.
Yeah.
And so
They're saying you got to shut down and do the review.
That's right. And as I looked at this, I thought, I wonder what happened here in terms of the vote. So I did a little research, and you'll notice that at our blog, there's this parenthetical thing that's between these articles, and it says other reports say they did not explain why the Keystone XL was excluded, although what I just said was the case. But there was no noted dissent. This was the entire Supreme Court voted that the Keystone XL cannot open until this review is done.
They just didn't talk about it.
They didn't talk about it.
They just issued a decree.
The other thing is the Dakota Access Pipeline has got to shut down, and it has to be drained.
Yep.
The whole thing.
Empty.
And you know,
it's going to cost money.
It's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to take 13 months to do that review, and whoever put the billions of dollars into building that thing is going to be sitting there twiddling his thumbs while it happens, because that was an appeals court. Appealing this thing to the Supreme Court is not going to help.
I don't think. Well, I can read something here that will explain a little bit better what I tried to do with my hands. Well, as we said, the exclusion requires Keystone XL to abide by the environmental review, which they didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Currently, the Keystone system stretches more than 2,600 miles from Hardisty, Alberta, which is where they're getting this oil sand stuff, east into Manitoba and then south into Texas. Keystone XL would be a shortcut stretching from Hardisty down to Nebraska, cutting through Montana and South Dakota.
Yeah.
So as you said, they're taking the hypotenuse.
It's a shorter route.
In addition, Duke Energy announced the cancellation yet of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline.
The day before.
Yeah.
So we've got all these pipelines that
and we're talking here, Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina. It's
right.
Totally different part of the world.
It's a different
Something's
part of the world.
going on.
Well, what's happening here is Dominion Energy is saying, was it Dominion and Duke?
I don't have that note, so I can't tell you.
It was two companies.
I think it was both Dominion and Duke. Yeah.
Dominion anyway, and Duke also. They're going very heavily into renewable power. And I think they're looking at this and they're saying, you know, people are fighting us on this. The fact of the matter is, it's going to cost billions of dollars. It's going to take a long time, and we don't even know that we really want it. My guess is
it's ironic. In another few years, all these pipelines are going to be obsolete.
Exactly. This is what's called stranded assets.
Yeah,
it's stranded assets.
It could very well be.
Why would you build a pipeline when it can't be used in 5 years? You know. And
I don't think they believe it can't be used in 5 years.
Some of them don't, which is why they get scheduled to begin with.
Possibility.
I think there's a very strong probability. Yeah.
Well, this is the last day coming up, Wednesday, July 8th.
Yep.
And it says global utilities are failing the climate test.
Only 4 of the 50 most influential utilities in the world have defined clear targets to provide green energy aligned with the Paris Agreement, the World Benchmarking Alliance second climate and energy benchmark says. The 4 are Ørsted, which we have talked about a lot, Enel, which is the Italian
equivalent,
EDP, I can't remember where, EDP is Spanish.
Okay.
And U.S. AES Corporation.
Okay.
So that's what we've got.
Well, what it says here, and it's one takeaway here, there is still a strong fossil fuel dependency from the 50 companies they assessed.
Yep.
Only 12% of their installed capacity is from solar and wind, with 60% of them relying on coal, oil, and gas. This could mean lights out for the Paris Agreement.
We've got to do better than this.
Yeah, they do.
Yep. Anyway,
Did we show that picture?
we
of the
didn't
wind farm?
show
I
the
don't think
picture.
we
This
even
is
had that picture up.
building a wind farm. This is the EDP thing, which is an interesting shot because it shows
Well, they get that big crane
noctilucent
picking up
clouds.
the piece of the tower.
Yeah, and noctilucent clouds in the background. And then
Yeah.
there's those wind turbines with their lights
Yeah,
in the distance. Anyway, that's it for the
that's
week.
it for today.
And we have this, which is to say, have a supremely splendid week.
Adios.
Adios.